The woman who paid for everything wasn't allowed in the photos. I stood in that kitchen, flour on my apron, champagne pouring in the next room, and realized my own daughter had hidden me away like something shameful. $73,000. That's what I'd spent on her dream wedding, and I wasn't good enough to stand beside her when she said, "I do." If you've ever been used by someone you loved, stay with me. This is my story, how I gave everything and became nothing. Watch until the end, hit that like button, and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far the story travels. Because what happened next, I never saw coming. The kitchen smelled like expensive catering, truffle oil and fresh herbs I couldn't name. I wasn't supposed to be there either, but at least in the kitchen, no one looked at me like I was a problem that needed solving. Through the swinging door, I could hear the string quartet. Mozart, I think. Vanessa had very specific tastes about everything. The flowers had to be imported peonies, pale pink, nothing else would do. The invitations were letterpress on handmade paper that cost more per piece than I used to spend on groceries for a week. The venue was a restored estate with gardens that looked like something from a European postcard. I paid for all of it, every single thing. But I was wearing a dress I'd bought off the clearance rack at Macy's 3 years ago, and I'd been politely, so politely, asked to stay out of sight during the ceremony. "Mom," Vanessa had said that morning, her voice tight, with that particular strain of patience she reserved for me. The photographer needs to capture the aesthetic we're going for. It's very curated, very specific, you understand, right? I didn't understand, but I nodded anyway, because that's what I'd been doing for years, nodding, agreeing, staying quiet. Her wedding planner, a woman named Sage who wore all black and spoke in hushed, urgent tones like she was coordinating a military operation, had physically steered me away from the bridal suite. "We need to preserve the energy of the space," she'd said, one hand on my elbow, guiding me down the hallway like I was lost. So I ended up in the kitchen. The catering staff was kind. They offered me coffee, asked if I wanted to sit down. A young man with tattooed forearms and kind eyes brought me a plate of the hors d'oeuvres that cost $45 per person. "You should try these," he said. "They're incredible." I picked at a prosciutto-wrapped fig and wondered if Vanessa even knew I was in the building. The ceremony started at 4. I watched it through a crack in the door. Vanessa looked beautiful. She always had. Even as a little girl, she'd had this way of holding herself, chin up, shoulders back, like she knew the world was watching. Her dress was custom, designed by someone whose name I was supposed to recognize but didn't. It fit her like water, all silk and delicate beading that caught the light. Robert stood at the altar in his tailored tuxedo, looking exactly like what he was. Old money, old family, the kind of man who'd never had to worry about anything in his life. His parents sat in the front row, his mother in a hat that probably cost more than my car. My seat was in the back, second to last row. I'd paid for $73,000 of this wedding, and I was sitting behind people I'd never met, people who'd contributed nothing, people who were here for the free champagne and the chance to see inside the Cole family's social circle. But I told myself it was fine. It was Vanessa's day. She deserved to have everything perfect. The ceremony was short. Vanessa had wanted intimate and elegant, which apparently meant 20 minutes of readings I didn't understand and vows that sounded like they'd been written by a poet. Robert's voice was steady. Vanessa's wavered just once, and I felt my throat tighten. When they kissed, everyone applauded. I clapped too, standing in the back, invisible. The reception was in the garden. Light strung through the trees, tables covered in cream linens, centerpieces that looked like they belonged in a museum. I found my seat at a table near the edge, far from the head table where Vanessa and Robert sat with their wedding party. I was seated with Robert's elderly aunt, who was hard of hearing, and two couples I'd never met who spent the entire dinner talking to each other. No one introduced me as the mother of the bride. No one introduced me at all. I ate my $75 plated meal, herb-crusted salmon with something called microgreens, and watched Vanessa laugh with her friends. She looked so happy, so perfectly in her element. This was the world she'd always wanted, the life she'd been chasing since she was 16, and realized that my world, our modest house, our second-hand furniture, our grocery store cake for birthdays, wasn't enough. I didn't blame her for wanting more. I just wished I was allowed to be part of it. After dinner, there were speeches. Robert's father stood up, his voice booming across the garden, and talked about legacy and family and the importance of building a life together. Everyone laughed at his jokes. Everyone raised their glasses when he toasted the couple. Then it was supposed to be my turn. I'd written something, a short speech, nothing fancy, just a few words about watching Vanessa grow up and how proud I was of the woman she'd become. I'd practiced it in front of my bathroom mirror 3 times, but when Robert's father sat down, the DJ started playing music. No one called my name. No one even looked in my direction. I sat there holding my untouched glass of champagne and realized they'd cut me from the program. My hands were shaking. I set the glass down carefully, afraid I'd drop it, and excused myself from the table. The elderly aunt didn't notice. No one did. I walked back toward the building, my heels sinking into the soft grass, and found the bathroom. Locked myself in a stall. Sat down on the closed toilet seat and pressed my hands against my face. I didn't cry. I don't know why. Maybe I was too tired. Maybe I'd used up all my tears already and didn't know it. I just sat there, breathing, trying to pull myself together. When I came out, I could hear voices in the hallway, women's voices, laughing. I recognized one of them immediately, Vanessa. Honestly, I don't know why she wore that dress, Vanessa was saying. I sent her links. I told her exactly what the dress code was. Someone else laughed. At least she stayed out of the photos. Thank God, Sage was a miracle worker. I swear, if my mother had been in the bridal suite, I would have lost my mind. She just doesn't get it. She doesn't understand the vibe we were going for. Another voice, older. Well, you can't help where you come from, darling. The important thing is you're building your own life now. Exactly, Vanessa said. Robert's family has been so amazing. His mother took me shopping in Paris last year. Paris. My mom thinks Kohl's is a splurge. They all laughed. I stood there, one hand on the bathroom door, frozen. But she paid for the wedding, didn't she? Someone asked. There was a pause. She offered, Vanessa said carefully, and honestly it was the least she could do. I mean, I didn't have a trust fund. I didn't have anything handed to me. She knew how important this was. Still, the voice said, $70,000. And it's not like she needs it, Vanessa said, her tone sharpening. She's been sitting on that money for years. What was she going to do with it? She doesn't travel. She doesn't do anything. At least this way, it went towards something meaningful. My vision blurred at the edges. And you didn't want her in the photos? Someone asked. Vanessa sighed. Look, I love my mother, I do, but this wedding was a reflection of me and Robert, our life, our future, and she doesn't fit that image. I needed everything to be perfect, and having her front and center would have been, I don't know, a distraction. A distraction, one of the women repeated, like she was testing the word. You know what I mean, Vanessa said. Anyway, it's done now. The photos are going to be gorgeous. That's what matters. I pushed the door open. They were standing near the coat check, Vanessa in her white dress, glowing and perfect, surrounded by 3 women in cocktail dresses who looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine. Vanessa saw me first. Her face went white. Mom, she said. I held up a hand. Don't. My voice came out steady. I don't know how. Everything inside me was shaking, crumbling, breaking apart, but my voice was steady. Eleanor, one of the women started. It's fine, I said. I looked at Vanessa, really looked at her. It's fine, I understand now. Mom, you're taking this out of context. No, I said. I don't think I am. I turned and walked away. Behind me, I heard Vanessa call my name, but I didn't stop. I walked through the garden, past the tables full of people I didn't know, past the dance floor where couples were swaying to some slow song, past the bar where Robert's friends were laughing too loud. I got to my car, a 12-year-old Honda that looked painfully out of place in the parking lot, full of BMWs and Mercedes, and sat in the driver's seat with the door closed. And then, finally, I cried. Not quiet tears, not dignified tears. I sobbed. 40 years. I'd spent 40 years putting Vanessa first. 40 years sacrificing, saving, doing without so she could have more. And this was what I'd gotten: a seat in the back, a cheap dress, and the knowledge that I was an embarrassment. A distraction. I'd given her $73,000 for this wedding. Money I'd saved for years. Money I'd set aside for emergencies, for retirement, for the future. I kept telling myself I'd figure out eventually. And she couldn't even let me give a speech. I drove home in my clearance rack dress and cried the whole way. My house was dark when I pulled into the driveway. Small, quiet. The porch light was out again. I kept meaning to replace it, and the garden I'd planted in the spring was overgrown because I'd been too busy helping Vanessa plan her perfect wedding. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The silence was deafening. For 40 years this house had been full of Vanessa. Her voice, her friends, her drama, her needs. I'd built my entire life around making sure she had everything she wanted. And now she was gone, and I was nothing. I sat on the couch in the dark and stared at the wall. Somewhere across town, Vanessa was dancing with her husband, surrounded by people who fit her image, people who belonged in her perfect, curated life. And I was here, alone, used up, erased. The days after the wedding were strange, hollow. I kept expecting Vanessa to call. Not to apologize, I wasn't naive enough to expect that, but just to acknowledge me, to say something, anything. But my phone stayed silent. I went back to work on Monday. I was a bookkeeper for a small accounting firm, the kind of job that paid the bills but didn't inspire much conversation. My co-workers asked how the wedding was, and I smiled and said it was beautiful. "Did you cry?" Linda from payroll asked. "Yes," I said, which was true, just not the way she thought. I didn't tell anyone what had happened. What would I even say? My daughter hid me in the kitchen at her own wedding because I don't fit her aesthetic. It sounded absurd even in my own head. At night, I sat in my house and replayed the whole thing, over and over, trying to make sense of it, trying to find the moment where I'd gone wrong. Maybe I should have pushed back more. Maybe I should have demanded to be in the photos. Maybe I should have refused to pay unless she treated me with basic respect, but I hadn't, because I loved her, because I wanted her to be happy, because I thought being a good mother meant giving everything and asking for nothing in return. 2 weeks went by, then 3, still no call. I started to wonder if she was ever going to reach out, if maybe this was it. The wedding was over, she had what she needed, and I was just done, discarded. Then, on a Thursday evening, my phone finally rang. Vanessa's name lit up the screen. I stared at it for 3 rings before I answered. "Hello? Mom?" Her voice was tight, irritated. "We need to talk." Not "Hi, Mom," not "How are you?" Not even a fake attempt at pleasantries. Just, "We need to talk." "Okay," I said carefully. "I got a letter from the bank," she said, "about the account you opened in my name when I was 16. Apparently you're still listed as a co-owner, and they sent me a statement." My stomach dropped. "Vanessa, that account, it has $300 in it, Mom. 300. I thought there was more. I thought you'd been putting money aside for me." I closed my eyes. I did, but I had to use some of it for what? "For your wedding," I said quietly. Silence. "Then, you took money out of my account to pay for my wedding?" "It wasn't your account," I said, my voice shaking. "It was a joint account. I opened it to teach you about saving, but it was always joint. And yes, I used some of the money. I used a lot of money because you wanted a $70,000 wedding and I didn't have $70,000 just sitting around. So you stole from me. I didn't steal. You took money that was supposed to be mine and spent it without asking." I felt something crack inside my chest. "Vanessa, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I paid for your entire wedding. Every single thing. The dress, the flowers, the venue, the food, all of it. And you're angry because I used money from a joint account that had my name on it. That account was supposed to be for my future, she snapped, not for you to raid whenever you felt like it. Your future, I repeated. Vanessa, I gave you my future. I gave you everything. I worked overtime for years. I skipped vacations. I drove a car that barely runs because I was saving for you. And you hid me in the kitchen at your wedding. Another silence. You're really going to bring that up? She said finally. Yes, I said. I am. Because it happened. You were ashamed of me. I wasn't ashamed. You told your friends I was a distraction. I heard her inhale sharply. You were listening? I was standing 10 feet away, Vanessa. You weren't exactly whispering. Mom, that's not... You're twisting what I said. Am I? Yes, you don't understand the pressure I was under. That wedding was everything. Robert's family, his friends, everyone was watching. I needed it to be perfect. And I ruined it, I said flatly. That's not what I said. It's what you meant. She made a frustrated noise. This is exactly why I didn't want to deal with this right now. You're being dramatic. I'm being dramatic? I felt something shift inside me. Something hard and cold. Vanessa, I spent $73,000 on your wedding. I sat in the back row. I wasn't allowed to give a speech. I wasn't in a single photo. And now you're calling me to complain about $300. It's the principle. The principle? My voice rose. You want to talk about principles? How about gratitude? How about respect? How about treating your mother like a human being instead of a bank account? Oh, here we go, Vanessa said. The guilt trip, classic. It's not a guilt trip, it's the truth. You offered to pay for the wedding, Mom. No one forced you. You're right, I said. No one forced me. I did it because I love you, because I thought... My voice broke. I thought it would make you happy. I thought it would make you proud of me. Proud of you? She sounded genuinely confused. Mom, this isn't about you. And there it was, the thing I'd been too afraid to see. To Vanessa, I wasn't a person. I was a resource, a means to an end. This isn't about you. It never had been. You're right, I said quietly. It's not about me. It's never been about me. Mom, I have to go, I said. We're not done talking. Yes, I said, we are. I hung up. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. I sat there in my living room in the house I'd lived in for 30 years and felt the full weight of it settle over me. I'd spent 40 years being a mother, 40 years putting someone else first, 40 years believing that love meant sacrifice, and I had nothing to show for it. No respect, no gratitude, no relationship, just an empty house and a daughter who saw me as an inconvenience. I thought about calling her back, apologizing, smoothing things over the way I always did, but I didn't. For the first time in my life, I didn't. I just sat there, in the dark, and let myself feel the full, crushing weight of what I'd lost. And slowly, underneath the grief, I felt something else stirring, something I hadn't felt in years. Anger. The anger didn't leave. It sat in my chest like a stone, heavy and cold, and every time I thought about that phone call, it grew heavier. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept replaying Vanessa's voice in my head. The irritation, the entitlement, the complete absence of anything resembling gratitude or love. This isn't about you. At 3 a.m, I got out of bed and went to my office. It was really just a spare bedroom with a desk and a filing cabinet, but I'd always called it my office because it made me feel like I had something of my own. I pulled out the file I kept for Vanessa, every receipt, every bank statement, every record of everything I'd ever given her. It was thick. I spread it all out on the desk and started adding it up. The wedding, $73,000. That was the big one, obviously, but there was more, so much more. College tuition, $42,000. She'd gotten some scholarships, but not enough. I'd covered the rest. Told her not to worry about loans, that I'd handle it. Her apartment deposit when she moved to the city after graduation, $3,000. First month's rent when she was between jobs, $1,800. The car I'd co-signed for when she was 23, $15,000. She'd promised to make the payments herself, but after 6 months she'd called crying about how expensive everything was, and I'd taken over. Paid it off completely. Her dental work when she didn't have insurance, $4,000. The loan for her certification program that she'd never paid back, $7,000. Christmas gifts, birthday gifts, emergency money when she needed it. I stopped counting after $20,000. By the time the sun came up, I'd tallied over $170,000. $170,000 I'd given my daughter over the years, and she was angry about $300. I sat back in my chair and stared at the numbers. I'd worked so hard for that money, overtime shifts, second jobs during the holidays. I'd skipped meals to save money, bought generic everything, worn clothes until they fell apart, and for what? So my daughter could call me a distraction? I heard my mother's voice in my head. She'd been dead for 10 years, but I could still hear her as clearly as if she was standing in the room. Eleanor, you can't buy love. She'd said it to me once, years ago, when Vanessa was in high school, and I'd been saving for months to buy her the designer purse she'd been begging for. You're trying to make her love you by giving her things. It doesn't work that way. I'd been angry at her for saying it, told her she didn't understand. Vanessa wasn't materialistic. She just deserved nice things. She deserved better than what I'd had growing up. But my mother had just looked at me with sad, knowing eyes and said, "Be careful, Eleanor. You're teaching her that your value is in your wallet." I should have listened. The next few days were strange. I went through the motions, work, home, sleep, but everything felt different, like I was seeing my life from the outside for the first time. Linda at work asked if I was feeling okay. "You seem distant," she said, perching on the edge of my desk with her coffee mug. "Everything all right?" "Fine," I said automatically. She didn't look convinced. "How's Vanessa? Enjoying married life?" I smiled. "I'm sure she is." "You haven't talked to her?" "Not recently." Linda's eyebrows went up. "Really? That's weird. I talk to my daughter every day, sometimes twice a day. She drives me crazy, but..." She shrugged. "That's what we do, right? We call our moms." I nodded and turned back to my computer screen, hoping she'd take the hint. She did, but not before squeezing my shoulder. "If you need to talk, you know where to find me." I appreciated the offer. I did. But I couldn't imagine explaining this to anyone. How do you tell someone that your own daughter sees you as nothing more than a bank account? That you've spent 40 years giving everything you have only to realize it was never enough? And never would be. A week passed, then another. Still no call from Vanessa. I told myself I didn't care, that I was fine with the silence. But every time my phone rang and it wasn't her, I felt something twist in my chest. Then, 3 weeks after our fight, she called. I almost didn't answer. My hand hovered over the phone, and for a solid 10 seconds, I considered letting it go to voicemail. But I answered. Old habits. "Mom," Vanessa said. Her voice was different this time, lighter, like nothing had happened. "I'm so glad I caught you." I didn't say anything. "Listen," she continued. "I know we left things kind of weird last time we talked, but I've been thinking and I wanted to reach out. Robert and I are looking at houses, and I thought maybe you'd want to come see some with us. You know, get your input, my input." 3 weeks of silence, and now she wanted my input. "Vanessa, I know you're probably busy, but it would mean a lot to me, and honestly, Mom, some of these houses are incredible. There's one in Brookhaven with this gorgeous kitchen. You'd love it." She was talking fast, too fast, like she was trying to fill the space before I could object. "We're seeing it this Saturday," she said. 11 a.m. I'll text you the address, okay? "Vanessa, I don't think..." "Great, I'll see you Saturday. Love you." She hung up before I could respond. I stared at my phone. "Love you." She'd said it so casually, so automatically, like it was punctuation, not a declaration. I should have texted her back and said no, should have held my ground, but I didn't, because some part of me, some stupid, hopeful, pathetic part of me, wanted to believe that maybe this was her way of apologizing, that maybe she'd realized how she treated me and was trying to make it right. Saturday came. The house was in one of those neighborhoods where every lawn looked like it had been manicured with scissors. Big houses, New construction. The kind of place where people drove electric cars and had cleaning services. Vanessa's car was already in the driveway when I pulled up. A white Audi. I didn't remember her having an Audi. She met me at the door, all smiles, wearing jeans that probably cost more than my mortgage payment and a cashmere sweater that looked impossibly soft. "Mom, you made it!" She hugged me. It was quick, perfunctory, but it was something. Robert appeared behind her, tall and polished in khakis and a button-down. "Eleanor," he said, extending his hand. "Good to see you." I shook it. His grip was firm, confident, the grip of someone who'd never doubted anything in his life. Come in, Vanessa said, pulling me inside. "Wait until you see this place. It's incredible." The house was big, too big. 4 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms, a kitchen with marble countertops and appliances that looked like they belonged in a restaurant. Vanessa walked me through every room, talking non-stop about crown molding and hardwood floors and the amazing natural light. I nodded and smiled and tried to look interested. "So," Vanessa said as we stood in the master bedroom, a space bigger than my entire living room, "what do you think?" "It's lovely," I said. "Right?" She beamed. "Robert and I are obsessed. We put in an offer yesterday." "That's wonderful." She glanced at Robert, then back at me. Something shifted in her expression. "There's just one thing." And there it was. I felt it before she even said it, the real reason she'd invited me here. "The down payment is a little higher than we anticipated," she said carefully. "The market's insane right now. But our realtor says this house won't last long, so we need to move fast." I waited. "We were thinking," she continued, "since you've been so generous already, and we're so grateful, Mom, really, maybe you could help us out with the down payment, just to get us started." Robert jumped in. "It's an investment, really. Property values in this area are skyrocketing. We'd be happy to pay you back once we build some equity." I looked at Vanessa. "How much are you asking for?" She hesitated. 40,000. The number hit me like a slap. $40,000. On top of the 170,000 I'd already given her. "Vanessa," I said slowly, "I don't have $40,000. "Yes, you do," she said. "You have the house. You could take out a home equity loan or refinance. People do it all the time. You want me to borrow against my house so you can buy this one?" "It's not like that." "Then what is it like?" Her jaw tightened. "Mom, this is a huge opportunity for us. This house, it's our dream home. We can start a family here, build a life. Don't you want that for me?" "Of course I do," I said. "But Vanessa, I can't afford this. I'm 63 years old. I'm trying to save for retirement. I can't just—" "You're always saying you want to help me," she interrupted. "That you want me to be happy. Well, this would make me happy. This house would change our lives." I felt something crack inside me, something that had been holding on for too long. "I've given you everything," I said quietly. "Everything I have, and it's still not enough. That's not fair." "Isn't it?" My voice was shaking now. "I paid for your college, your car, your apartment, your wedding. I've given you over $170,000, Vanessa, and now you want me to go into debt so you can have a bigger house?" She blinked. $170,000, that's not— "Mom, you're exaggerating." "I have the receipts," I said. "I added it all up. Every single thing I've ever given you." Her face went red. "You kept receipts. You've been tracking everything you spent on me." "I didn't keep them to throw in your face. I kept them because I'm a bookkeeper. I keep records. But yes, I know exactly how much I've given you." Robert cleared his throat. "Eleanor, I think maybe we should all take a step back." "No," Vanessa snapped. She turned on me, her eyes blazing. "You want to talk about money? Fine, let's talk about it. You chose to spend that money on me. Nobody forced you. You offered. Every single time you offered." "Because you're my daughter," I said. "Because I love you. And I love you too," she shot back. "But that doesn't mean I owe you. You don't get to hold every gift you ever gave me over my head like some kind of debt. I'm not." "Yes, you are. You're standing here in my dream house telling me you can't help me because you've already given me too much. Like I'm some kind of burden." "You are a burden." The words burst out of me before I could stop them. You have been a burden since the day you were born, and I loved you anyway. I sacrificed everything for you. My career, my savings, my entire life, and you've never once said thank you. Not once." The silence that followed was deafening. Vanessa's face was pale. "How dare you? It's the truth. You're my mother. You're supposed to take care of me. That's your job." "I did take care of you," I said, "for 40 years. But you're 36 years old, Vanessa. At some point, you have to take care of yourself." "I have a husband," she said coldly. "I don't need you." The words landed like a punch. "Good," I said. My voice was steady now, calm. "Then you won't mind if I stop helping?" Her eyes narrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I'm done," I said. "I'm done giving you money. I'm done being treated like an ATM. I'm done being invisible in your life unless you need something." Robert stepped forward. "Eleanor, I think you're being a little—" "I'm being honest," I said, cutting him off. "For the first time in my life, I'm being completely honest. And the truth is, Vanessa, you don't love me. You love what I can give you, and when I can't give you anything, I don't exist." "That's not true," Vanessa said, but her voice wavered. "Isn't it? When's the last time you called me just to talk? When's the last time you asked how I was doing? When's the last time you treated me like a person instead of a checkbook?" She didn't answer. "That's what I thought," I said. I turned and walked toward the door. "Mom, wait." I didn't wait. I walked out of that enormous, beautiful house and got into my 12-year-old Honda and drove away. My hands were shaking so badly I had to pull over 2 blocks later. I gripped the steering wheel and tried to breathe. I'd done it. I'd actually done it. I'd said no, and it felt terrifying and liberating and completely surreal. When I got home, I sat in my driveway for a long time, staring at my house. It was small. The paint was peeling in places. The front steps needed fixing, but it was mine. Paid off. Completely mine. And I wasn't going to risk it for anyone, not even Vanessa. I went inside and made myself a cup of tea, sat at my kitchen table, waited for the guilt to hit. It didn't. Instead, I felt something else, something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. The next morning, I called a financial advisor, made an appointment, started asking questions I should have asked a decade ago about retirement accounts and investments and how to protect the money I had left. I also called a real estate agent. "I'm thinking about selling," I told her. "Your house?" She sounded surprised. "I'd lived here for 30 years. Everyone in the neighborhood knew me." "Yes." "Can I ask why?" "I need a fresh start," I said, and I meant it. The house sold in 2 weeks. Multiple offers. I took the highest one and didn't look back. Vanessa called the day I accepted the offer. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. "Mom, I heard you're selling the house. What the hell? You can't just call me back. We need to talk about this." I deleted the voicemail. She called again the next day and the day after that. On the 4th call, I finally answered. "What are you doing?" she demanded. No hello, no pleasantries. "Downsizing," I said. "Why?" "Because I want to." "That's my childhood home, Mom. You can't just sell it without telling me." "It's my house," I said calmly, and I can do whatever I want with it." "This is insane. Are you trying to punish me?" "No," I said. "I'm trying to take care of myself. By selling the house. Where are you even going to live?" "I found a condo. It's smaller, easier to maintain, and it's mine. Completely paid for." She was silent for a moment. Then, "What about my things?" "What things?" "I have boxes in the attic and the basement. My old furniture." "I gave you 3 months' notice," I said. "I sent you an email. If you want your things, you need to come get them before closing. I can't just drop everything and come pack up boxes. Then I'll donate them," I said. "You can't." "Vanessa," I said quietly, "you told me you don't need me, so stop acting like you do." I hung up. This time, when my hand shook, it wasn't from fear. It was from adrenaline. Moving day came faster than I expected. The condo was in a quiet neighborhood across town. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a small kitchen. Everything I needed and nothing I didn't. I'd gotten rid of most of my furniture, donated it, kept only what mattered. The day I moved in, I stood in the middle of my new living room and looked around. It was empty, quiet, clean. And it was mine. No memories of Vanessa here, no ghosts of the past 40 years, just space, possibility. I started crying and I didn't even know why. Maybe because I was happy, maybe because I was free, maybe because for the first time in my life I'd chosen myself. I didn't hear from Vanessa for 6 weeks after that. 6 weeks of silence that felt like breathing after being underwater for 40 years. I went to work, came home, unpacked boxes, arranged my small space exactly how I wanted it. Nobody to please but myself. The condo had a balcony that overlooked a park. I bought a cheap patio chair and started having my morning coffee out there, watching joggers and dog walkers and people living their lives. It was peaceful in a way I'd forgotten life could be. Linda noticed the change at work. "You look different," she said one afternoon, studying me over her reading glasses. "I got my hair cut," I said. "It's not the hair." She tilted her head. "You look lighter." I didn't know how to explain it. How do you tell someone that you'd been carrying a weight for so long you'd forgotten what it felt like to stand up straight? "I'm just trying some new things," I said. "Good for you," she smiled. "Life's too short to stay stuck, right?" "Right." I started doing things I'd never done before. Small things. Stupid things, probably. But they were mine. I joined a book club at the library. Went to a pottery class on Thursday nights. Started taking walks after dinner instead of sitting in front of the TV with a frozen meal. I made a friend named Carol, who was 72 and had more energy than women half her age. She'd been divorced 3 times and had stories that made me laugh until my stomach hurt. The secret, she told me over coffee one Saturday, is to stop giving a damn what people think, especially family. Family's the worst for making you feel guilty about being happy. I thought about Vanessa, about the silent treatment, about the way she'd made me feel selfish for wanting to keep my own house. What if they're right though, I asked. What if I am being selfish? Carol snorted. "Honey, you paid for a $70,000 wedding and got shoved in the kitchen. If that's what selflessness gets you, be selfish. Be the most selfish woman on the planet. You've earned it." I started sleeping better, eating better. I even lost a few pounds without trying. But in the back of my mind, I knew it couldn't last. Vanessa wouldn't stay quiet forever. I was right. It was a Tuesday evening when my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I'd ordered takeout earlier, but it had already been delivered. I opened the door. Vanessa stood there, and she wasn't alone. Robert's parents were with her. His mother, Patricia Cole, wore a cream-colored pantsuit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. His father, Richard, looked like he'd walked off a yacht. Polo shirt, expensive watch, the kind of tan you only get from winter vacations in warm places. I froze. "Mom," Vanessa said. Her voice was tight, controlled. "We need to talk." "You should have called first," I said. "You don't answer my calls." She was right. I'd blocked her number 2 weeks ago. "Can we come in?" Patricia asked. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Every instinct I had screamed at me to say no, to close the door and lock it and pretend this wasn't happening. But old habits die hard. I stepped aside. They filed into my small living room, and suddenly the space I'd been so proud of felt cramped and shabby. Patricia's eyes swept over my second-hand furniture, my discount store curtains, the stack of library books on my coffee table. "Cozy," she said in a tone that meant the opposite. "What do you want, Vanessa?" I asked. She sat on my couch without being invited. Robert's parents remained standing, flanking her like bodyguards. "I've been talking to Robert's parents," Vanessa said, "about everything that's happened, and they've helped me see things more clearly." "How nice for you." Her jaw tightened. "Mom, I know you're upset. I know you feel like I've taken advantage of you. I don't feel like you've taken advantage of me," I said. "You did take advantage of me." Patricia cleared her throat. "Eleanor, if I may, Vanessa has shared with us how difficult things have been between you two. And as someone who's raised children myself, I understand how complicated these relationships can be." I looked at her. "Do you?" "Of course. But I also think there's been a misunderstanding. Vanessa tells us you're planning to change your will, to cut her out entirely." My blood went cold. I never said that. But you're considering it, Richard said. It wasn't a question I didn't answer. Eleanor, Patricia continued, her voice dripping with false sympathy, I understand you're hurt, but surely you can see how unfair that would be. Vanessa is your only child, your only family. To disinherit her over a simple disagreement. It's not a simple disagreement, I said. My voice was shaking. She treated me like I was nothing. She's been treating me like nothing for years. That's not true, Vanessa said, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. Then tell me, I said, when's the last time you called me just to see how I was doing? When's the last time you thanked me for anything? When's the last time you treated me like a person instead of a wallet? Silence. Richard stepped forward. Eleanor, let's not get emotional. This is about being practical. You've worked hard for your money. You deserve to decide what happens to it, but Vanessa is your daughter. Surely you want to leave her something. Why? I asked. They all stared at me. Why should I repeated. Because she's my daughter, because she's family. She made it very clear she doesn't need me, so why should she get anything when I die? Because it's the right thing to do, Patricia said, and now the warmth was gone from her voice. Because you're her mother. I've been her mother for 40 years, I said, and all it got me was used. Vanessa stood up. I knew this was a waste of time. She's being completely unreasonable. Sit down, Patricia ordered. Vanessa sat. Patricia turned back to me, and her expression had shifted. The fake friendliness was gone. Now she looked like a woman used to getting her way. Eleanor, let's be honest with each other. You're 63 years old. You're living in a one-bedroom condo. You work as a bookkeeper. You're not wealthy. But you do have assets. This condo, your retirement accounts, life insurance, I assume. That's none of your business. It is our business, Richard said. Vanessa is married to our son. Her financial security is our concern, and frankly, we're worried. Worried about what? Worried that you're making decisions out of spite, Patricia said. Decisions that will hurt Vanessa's future, our grandchildren's future. I felt like I'd been slapped. Grandchildren? Vanessa doesn't have children. Not yet, Vanessa said quietly. But we're planning to, soon. Patricia smiled. Which is why it's so important that Vanessa has financial security. Children are expensive, Eleanor. Surely you remember. Oh, I remembered. I remembered working double shifts when Vanessa was in diapers. Remembered choosing between paying the electric bill and buying her new shoes. Remembered every single sacrifice I'd made. So that's what this is, I said slowly. You want to make sure I leave Vanessa enough money to raise your grandchildren. We want to make sure you do the right thing, Richard said. The right thing, I repeated. Let me ask you something. Did Vanessa tell you she asked me for $40,000 to buy a house? After I'd already given her over $170,000, Patricia's expression didn't change. She mentioned it. And did she tell you I said no? She said you refused to help. I refused to go into debt for her, I corrected. There's a difference. Is there? Richard asked. You have home equity, you have retirement accounts, you have resources, and you're choosing not to help your own daughter. I've helped her for 40 years, I said. My voice was rising. I've given her everything, and it's never enough. It will never be enough, because she doesn't see me as a person. She sees me as a resource. And now you're here, in my home, telling me I owe her more. You're her mother, Patricia said coldly. You owe her everything. The words hung in the air like poison. Get out, I said. Nobody moved. I said, get out of my house. Eleanor, Vanessa started. No. I walked to the door and opened it. You brought your in-laws here to bully me into giving you money, to guilt me into changing my will. You ambushed me in my own home. Get out. Patricia stood slowly. You're making a mistake. The only mistake I made was answering the door. Richard's face was red. You'll regret this. I regret a lot of things, I said, but standing up for myself isn't one of them. They walked to the door. Vanessa was last. She stopped in front of me, and for a second I thought I saw something in her eyes. Regret, maybe, or shame. But then she spoke. You're really going to choose yourself over me? She asked. Yes, I said. For the first time in my life, yes. Then you're not the mother I thought you were. Good, I said, because the mother you thought I was didn't exist. She was just someone you invented to make yourself feel better about using me. Her face went white. I hope you're happy, she said, alone in your little condo with your little life, because that's all you're going to have. It's more than I had when I was giving everything to you, I said. She left. I closed the door and locked it, stood there shaking. Then I laughed. I actually laughed. Because she'd meant it as an insult, alone in my little condo with my little life. But it wasn't. It was the truth. And it was beautiful. I was alone. I did have a little condo and a little life, and it was mine. The next morning I called a lawyer, made an appointment to update my will. I didn't cut Vanessa out entirely. I wasn't that cruel, but I wasn't leaving her everything either. Instead, I divided my assets, half to Vanessa, the other half to charities I cared about, literacy programs, women's shelters, organizations that helped people who'd been where I'd been. Are you sure about this? My lawyer asked. Family can be complicated. I'm sure, I said. She nodded. Good. Too many people let their kids walk all over them. It's nice to see someone standing up for themselves. I signed the papers and felt something settle in my chest. Done. Over the next few months, I built a life I actually wanted to live. I started volunteering at the library, helping adults learn to read. Met a woman named Grace who was 57 and learning for the first time. Watching her sound out words, seeing her face light up when she finished a sentence, it reminded me why I'd wanted to be a teacher before I'd gotten pregnant with Vanessa, and everything changed. I took a weekend trip to the coast with Carol. We stayed in a cheap motel and ate seafood and walked on the beach until my feet hurt. I couldn't remember the last time I'd done something just because I wanted to. I even went on a date. His name was Frank. He was a widower, 68, kind eyes and a quiet laugh. We met at the book club and he asked if I wanted to get coffee. It wasn't romantic. We were both too old and too tired for romance. But it was nice, having someone to talk to, someone who didn't want anything from me except company. You seem happy, he said, over our third coffee date. I am, I said, and realized I meant it. That's good. Happy looks good on you. I smiled. Life was small, simple, but it was mine. And then Vanessa showed up again. It was late October. I was on my balcony, wrapped in a blanket, drinking tea and watching the leaves fall. The doorbell rang. I almost didn't answer, but something made me get up and check the peephole. Vanessa stood there alone. No Robert, no in-laws, just her. She looked terrible. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, no makeup, dark circles under her eyes. She was wearing jeans and a sweatshirt I'd bought her for Christmas 5 years ago. I opened the door. Mom, she said, her voice cracked. What do you want, Vanessa? I need help. Of course she did. I can't. Robert and I. She took a shaky breath. We're getting divorced. I stared at her. He cheated on me, she said, with someone from his office. I found out 3 weeks ago. His parents are taking his side. They're saying I'm overreacting, that I should forgive him, that marriages go through rough patches. She started crying. Real tears, not the fake ones she'd used when she wanted something. Real, ugly, broken crying. I don't have anywhere to go, she said. The house is in his name. His family's lawyers are destroying me. I don't have any money. Everything's in joint accounts and they've frozen them. I can't even afford a hotel. She looked at me with red, desperate eyes. Please, Mom, I know I've been terrible. I know I don't deserve it, but I need you. And there it was, the moment I'd been dreading. The moment where I had to decide who I was going to be. The old Eleanor would have opened the door wide, would have pulled her inside and fixed her tea and told her everything would be okay. Would have given her money and support and whatever she needed, no questions asked. But I wasn't the old Eleanor anymore. No, I said. Vanessa blinked. What? No, you can't stay here. Mom, I have nowhere to go. You have friends. You have money from the wedding gifts. You have a degree and job experience. You have options. I don't. Yes, you do, I said firmly. You've always had options. You just chose to use me instead of exploring them. I'm your daughter, she whispered. I know, and I love you, but I can't save you anymore. Please. Vanessa, listen to me. I stepped closer. I'm sorry Robert cheated on you. I'm sorry his family is awful. I'm sorry you're hurting. But I can't fix this, and even if I could, I won't. Why not? Because you need to learn to stand on your own. You're 36 years old. You've never had to struggle because I was always there to catch you. But I'm not doing that anymore. So you're just going to let me be homeless? You're not going to be homeless. You're going to figure it out like millions of people do every day. She stared at me like I was a stranger. I can't believe this, she said. I'm falling apart and you're giving me a lecture. I'm giving you the truth, I said. Something I should have done years ago. I hate you, she said. The words should have hurt. A year ago they would have destroyed me. But now they just made me sad. I know, I said. But I hope someday you'll understand. I closed the door, stood there listening to her cry on the other side. Every instinct I had screamed at me to open it, to pull her inside, to fix everything, but I didn't. I walked back to my balcony, sat in my chair and cried. Not for Vanessa, for myself, for the mother I'd been, for the years I'd lost, for the relationship that had never really existed. And then I dried my tears, finished my tea and went to bed. Because tomorrow was a new day and I had a life to live. I didn't sleep that night. I kept listening for the doorbell, waiting for Vanessa to come back. Part of me hoped she would. Part of me was terrified she would. But she didn't. The next morning I called in sick to work. I couldn't face anyone, couldn't pretend to be functional when I felt like I'd just pushed my own child off a cliff. Carol called around noon. You sound like hell, she said. I feel like hell. What happened? I told her everything. The doorbell, Vanessa's tears, the divorce, the moment I'd closed the door in her face. Carol was quiet for a long time. Did I do the wrong thing? I asked. No, she said firmly. You did the hardest thing. There's a difference. She said she had nowhere to go. Eleanor, honey, listen to me. People who truly have nowhere to go don't show up in designer jeans looking for a handout. They show up broken and ready to change. Your daughter showed up expecting you to fix her mess again. But what if something happens to her? What if then she'll figure it out like you did, like everyone does? Carol's voice softened. You're not responsible for saving her from her own choices. I wanted to believe that. I really did. But I was her mother. And no matter how much she'd hurt me, some part of me would always feel responsible for her. 3 days passed, then a week. I heard nothing. I went back to work, went through the motions. Linda asked if I was okay, and I lied and said I was fine. Frank took me to dinner, and I barely tasted the food. You're somewhere else tonight, he said gently. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Just tell me what's wrong. So I told him. About Vanessa. About closing the door. About the guilt that was eating me alive. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he reached across the table and squeezed my hand. My son didn't talk to me for 2 years once, he said. After his mother died, he blamed me, said I should have made her go to the doctor sooner, that I should have seen the signs. I didn't know that. Yeah, well, it nearly killed me, the silence, the anger. But you know what I learned? What? That sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is let them fall, let them hit bottom, because that's the only way they learn to climb back up. Did your son climb back up? Frank smiled sadly. Eventually, took him losing his job in his apartment before he realized he couldn't blame me forever. When he finally called, he was different, humbler, more honest. We have a good relationship now, but we wouldn't if I'd kept trying to fix everything for him. I thought about that all night. 2 weeks after I'd closed the door on Vanessa, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. This is Robert. Vanessa's in the hospital. Thought you should know. My blood turned to ice. I called the number immediately. Robert answered on the second ring. What happened? I demanded. She had a breakdown, he said flatly. Complete mental collapse. She's in the psychiatric unit at St. Mary's. Is she okay? Physically, yes. Mentally, no. She tried to hurt herself, Eleanor. Pills. Her roommate found her and called 911. The world tilted. Her roommate? Yeah, she's been staying with some woman from her yoga class. I guess you turned her away. The judgment in his voice was thick. Robert, Save it. I'm not calling to guilt you. I'm calling because the hospital needs information for her intake, insurance, medical history, that kind of thing. I figured you'd have it. You're her husband. Don't you have that information? Soon-to-be ex-husband, he corrected. And no, Vanessa handled all that stuff. I don't know her doctor's name or what medication she takes or any of it. Of course he didn't. I'll call the hospital, I said. Fine. He paused. For what it's worth, she's been asking for you. My throat closed up. What's she saying? That she's sorry, that she messed everything up, that she needs her mom. His voice hardened. But you know Vanessa, she says a lot of things when she needs something. He hung up. I sat there holding my phone, shaking. She'd tried to kill herself. My daughter had tried to kill herself, and I'd closed the door on her. The guilt hit me like a freight train. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. All I could see was Vanessa standing on my doorstep crying, begging for help, and me saying no. I grabbed my keys and drove to the hospital. St. Mary's psychiatric unit was on the 4th floor. Locked doors. A nurse at a desk who asked for ID and relationship to the patient. I'm her mother, I said. She checked her list. Eleanor Hayes? Yes. She's been asking for you. Let me see if she's able to have visitors. I waited in a horrible beige waiting room with fluorescent lights and magazines from 2019. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. 20 minutes later, the nurse came back. She can see you. Follow me. Vanessa's room was small. White walls, a narrow bed, a window with bars. She was sitting up, wearing a hospital gown, her hair lank and unwashed. She looked like she'd aged 10 years. When she saw me, she started crying. Mom, I stood in the doorway, frozen. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry for everything, for the wedding, for the money, for treating you like... She couldn't finish. She just cried. Every instinct I had told me to rush to her side, to hold her, to tell her it was okay, but I didn't move. Why did you do it? I asked quietly. She looked up, tears streaming down her face. Because I couldn't handle it anymore. Everything fell apart. Robert, his family, the house, the divorce, and you. Her voice broke. You were the only person I had left, and I ruined that too. So you tried to kill yourself. She flinched. I just wanted everything to stop, all the noise, all the pressure. I just wanted it to stop. I walked to the chair beside her bed and sat down. Vanessa, I need you to listen to me very carefully. She nodded, wiping her eyes. This isn't my fault, I said. Her face crumpled. I know. No, I don't think you do. You tried to blame me. In your mind, this happened because I closed the door, because I refused to save you. But that's not true. I wasn't. Yes, you were. You just said it. You said I was the only person you had left and you ruined it. Like your choices, your decisions, were somehow my responsibility. She was silent. You spent years treating me like I didn't matter, I continued. Like I was only valuable when I could give you something. And when I finally said no, when I finally chose myself, you fell apart. Not because I wasn't there, but because you'd never learned to stand on your own. That's not fair, she whispered. Isn't it, Vanessa? You're 36 years old. You have a college degree. You have skills. You have options, but you've never had to use them because I was always there to catch you, to pay for things, to fix things, to make everything easier. I thought that's what mothers were supposed to do. Mothers are supposed to raise their children to be independent, I said, to be strong, to be capable. I didn't do that. I enabled you. I made you dependent on me. And that's on me. She stared at me. But you're not a child anymore, I said, and I can't keep saving you, not because I don't love you, but because it's killing both of us. So what am I supposed to do? She asked, her voice small. You're supposed to get help, real help, therapy, treatment. You figure out why you feel like you can't survive without someone else fixing your problems, and then you learn how to fix them yourself. I don't know if I can. You can, I said firmly. You're stronger than you think. You've just never had to prove it. She was quiet for a long time. I really am sorry, she said finally. About the wedding, about everything. I didn't see it until now, how awful I was to you. I know. Do you forgive me? I took a deep breath. I'm working on it. She nodded slowly. That's fair. We sat there in silence. It wasn't comfortable, but it was honest. Mom, she said quietly, I know I don't have the right to ask, but can you stay just for a little while? I wanted to say no, wanted to protect myself, wanted to maintain the boundaries I'd fought so hard to build, but she was still my daughter. I'll stay, I said. We sat together for an hour, didn't talk much, but I held her hand when she cried, and that felt like enough. When I left, the nurse stopped me in the hallway. She needs intensive treatment, she said, therapy, probably medication. This wasn't just a cry for help. She's genuinely struggling. I know. Do you have the resources to help her? We have social workers who can... She needs to figure that out herself, I said. The nurse frowned. She's your daughter. Yes, and I love her, but I can't fix this for her. That seems harsh. It's not harsh, I said. It's necessary. I went home and cried for 3 hours straight. Not because I regretted what I'd said, but because it was so hard, so impossibly hard to love someone and still let them fall. Over the next few weeks, Vanessa stayed in the hospital. I visited twice, brought her magazines and clean clothes, listened when she talked about her therapy sessions. She was different, quieter, less demanding. My therapist says I have narcissistic tendencies, she told me during one visit, that I was raised to believe the world revolved around me. I didn't disagree. She also says you enabled it, Vanessa continued, that you never set boundaries, never made me face consequences. She's right. Vanessa looked surprised. You're not going to argue? No, it's true. I taught you that love meant giving everything and asking for nothing. I taught you that my needs didn't matter, and that was wrong. Why did you do it? I thought about that, really thought about it. Because I was scared, I said finally. Scared that if I didn't give you everything, you wouldn't love me. Scared that I wasn't enough on my own. That's sad, Mom. Yeah, I said, it is. When Vanessa was released from the hospital 3 weeks later, she didn't come to me. She went to a halfway house that specialized in people recovering from mental health crises. She called me once a week, short calls, surface-level conversations. How's work, she'd ask. Fine, how's therapy? Hard, it wasn't much, but it was something. Christmas came and went. I spent it with Carol and Frank and a few other people from the book club. We had dinner and played cards, and I didn't think about Vanessa until I was alone in my condo that night. I wondered if she was thinking about me, wondered if she missed the Christmases when I'd spent a month's salary on gifts for her, wondered if she understood yet why I couldn't do that anymore. In January, Vanessa got a job. Retail, barely above minimum wage. She called to tell me, and I could hear the pride in her voice. It's not much, she said, but it's mine. I got it myself. I'm proud of you, I said, and I meant it. February brought a surprise. A letter from Vanessa, handwritten. Dear Mom, my therapist suggested I write this instead of calling because I need to say things I'm not brave enough to say out loud. I've been thinking a lot about the wedding, about everything that happened after, and I need you to know that I finally understand. I was cruel to you, not just at the wedding, but for years. I treated you like an ATM, like you only existed to make my life easier. I didn't see you as a person with needs and feelings and dreams of your own. I saw you as Mom, as someone whose job was to sacrifice for me. I don't know when it started. Maybe when I was a kid and realized that crying got me what I wanted. Maybe in high school when I learned that guilt was more effective than asking. Maybe in college when I figured out that you'd never say no to me. Or maybe it was always there. Maybe I'm just selfish, broken, wrong. My therapist says I'm not broken. She says I'm learning. That awareness is the first step toward change. I want to change, Mom. I want to be better, not because I think it'll fix things between us. I know I destroyed that, but because I don't want to be the person who drove you to sell your house and cut me out of your life. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect anything from you anymore. I'm learning to stop expecting things from people. But I want you to know I see you now, not as my mother, as Eleanor, as a woman who gave everything to a daughter who gave nothing back, as someone who deserved so much better than what I gave you. I'm sorry. I know that's not enough, but it's true. Love, Vanessa. I read the letter 3 times. Then I put it in a drawer and went about my day, because forgiveness wasn't something I could force. It wasn't something that happened because someone wrote a nice letter. It was something that would come slowly, if it came at all. But for the first time in a long time, I felt something other than anger. When I thought about my daughter, I felt hope. Small, fragile, but real. March arrived with warmer weather and the first signs of spring. I planted flowers on my balcony, started planning a trip to Italy with Carol for the fall. My life was full in ways it had never been before. Not full of drama or crisis or someone else's needs, full of me. And then one afternoon, my phone rang. It was Vanessa's therapist. Ms. Hayes, I'm calling because Vanessa has asked to do a family session. She'd like you to participate. What does that involve? It's a session where family members come together to discuss patterns, work through conflict, and establish healthier communication. It's completely voluntary, of course. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. I'll do it. The session was scheduled for the following week. I was nervous, more nervous than I'd been in months. Vanessa was already in the therapist's office when I arrived. She stood when I walked in, hesitated, then sat back down. The therapist, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, gestured to a chair. Thank you for coming, Eleanor. I'm Dr. Chen. I sat. Vanessa looked different. Her hair was shorter. She was wearing jeans and a plain t-shirt, no jewelry, no makeup. She looked younger somehow, more real. I've asked you both here, Dr. Chen began, because Vanessa has been working very hard in therapy to understand the patterns that led to her breakdown. Part of that work involves addressing family dynamics. I nodded. Dr. Chen looked at Vanessa. Do you want to start? Vanessa took a shaky breath. Mom, I need to tell you some things, and I need you to listen without interrupting. Can you do that? Yes. I've been angry at you my whole life, she said, and I didn't even realize it until a few weeks ago. I blinked. I was angry that you weren't like other moms, that we didn't have money, that you worked all the time, and I had to come home to an empty house. I was angry that you couldn't give me the life I saw my friends having. My chest tightened. And instead of dealing with that anger, I punished you. I made you feel like you were never enough, like no matter how much you gave, it wasn't enough, because in my head you owed me. You owed me for being poor, for being ordinary, for being you. Tears were streaming down her face. That's sick, Mom. That's so sick, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I sat there stunned. I spent my whole life making you pay for things that weren't your fault, she continued. And then I married Robert because he had everything you didn't. Money, status, a family with connections, and I thought that would fix me, that having those things would make me happy. Did it? I asked quietly. No, she said. It made me worse, because I became someone I hated, someone shallow and cruel and empty, someone who hid her mother in the kitchen because she didn't fit the aesthetic. She looked at me, her eyes raw. I'm ashamed of who I was, who I am, but I'm trying to be better. Dr. Chen spoke. Eleanor, how does it feel to hear this? I didn't know how to answer. I felt too many things at once. Sad, angry, relieved, exhausted. I think, I said slowly, that I've been waiting my whole life to hear someone acknowledge that I mattered, that I wasn't just a background character in Vanessa's story. You're not a background character, Vanessa said. I was, I said. For 40 years I was, and I let myself be. Why? Vanessa asked. Because I thought that's what love was. Disappearing, making myself smaller so you could be bigger. That's not love, Dr. Chen said gently. That's self-erasure. I know that now. We talked for an hour about boundaries, about expectations, about the way we'd both failed each other. When the session ended, Vanessa walked me to my car. Thank you for coming, she said. You're welcome. I meant what I said in the letter. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I hope someday, we can have something real. Not a mother-daughter relationship built on guilt and obligation, but something honest. I looked at her, really looked at her. She wasn't the perfect, polished woman who'd gotten married in that garden. She was broken and struggling and doing the work, and maybe that was enough. I hope so too, I said. I drove home feeling lighter than I had in months. Spring turned into summer, and life continued in ways I'd never imagined possible a year ago. I took that trip to Italy with Carol. We spent 2 weeks wandering through Rome and Florence and tiny villages with names I couldn't pronounce. I ate pasta and drank wine and stood in front of the Sistine Chapel with tears running down my face because I'd never thought I'd see something so beautiful. "You're different," Carol said one night over dinner in a restaurant overlooking the Tuscan hills. "How so?" "You take up space now. You used to apologize for existing. Now you just exist. It's nice to see." I smiled. "I'm learning." "Well, keep learning. It suits you." The trip was everything I'd never let myself have. We stayed in small hotels with creaky floors and windows that overlooked cobblestone streets. We got lost in Venice and laughed about it instead of panicking. We ate gelato for breakfast because we were adults and nobody could tell us not to. One afternoon in Florence, we were sitting by the Arno River, watching the sunset paint the water gold and orange. "When's the last time you did something just for yourself?" Carol asked. I thought about it, really thought about it. "Before this trip, I can't remember, maybe never." "That's sad, Eleanor." "I know, but you're doing it now. That's what matters." She was right. For 2 whole weeks, I didn't think about Vanessa except in passing. Didn't worry about whether she was okay, whether she needed something, whether I was failing her somehow. I just existed, ate good food, saw beautiful things, laughed with a friend. It felt revolutionary. Vanessa and I texted occasionally while I was gone. Short messages, nothing deep. "How's Italy?" she'd ask. "Beautiful. How's work?" "Good, busy." That was it, and it was enough. When I got home from Italy, there was a package waiting on my doorstep. No return address. I opened it carefully, half expecting junk mail or a mistake. Inside was a framed photo. It was from Vanessa's wedding, but it wasn't one of the professional shots. It was candid, taken from behind. Me in my clearance rack dress, standing at the edge of the garden, watching the reception from a distance. Alone. Separate from everyone else, there was a note tucked inside. "Mom, I found this on the photographer's website. It was in the outtakes section. They didn't think it fit the aesthetic. But I think it's the most important photo from that day, because it shows the truth. You were there. You paid for everything. And I made you invisible. I'm keeping a copy to remind myself of who I never want to be again. This one's for you. I'm sorry, V." I stared at that photo for a long time. The woman in the picture looked so small, so defeated, standing on the outside looking in at a party she'd funded, but wasn't welcome to join. I remembered that moment exactly. The ache in my chest, the humiliation burning through me like acid, the slow, creeping realization that I'd spent $73,000 to be treated like I didn't exist. But looking at it now, a year later, I didn't feel that pain anymore. I felt something else, gratitude. Because that moment, that awful, crushing, devastating moment, had been the beginning of everything. The crack that let the light in, the breaking point that forced me to finally choose myself. Without that moment, I'd still be the invisible mother, still giving everything, still believing that love meant erasure. I put the photo in a drawer with Vanessa's letter, not because I wanted to forget, but because I wasn't ready to display it yet. Some wounds need time before they become scars. And scars need time before they become stories you can tell without bleeding. Forgiveness was coming, but it was slow, like watching ice melt. You couldn't rush it. You just had to wait. And that was okay. In August, Vanessa called, not texted, called. The ringtone made my heart jump. Old instincts die hard. "Mom, I need to tell you something." My stomach dropped. "Are you okay?" I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. She paused. I got promoted at work. They're making me assistant manager. Vanessa, that's wonderful. Yeah. She sounded genuinely happy, not the fake enthusiasm she used to use when she wanted something. Real joy, real pride. It's not much, just a little more money and some responsibility, but it feels good, like I earned something for once. You did earn it. I know, another pause. That's the thing, Mom. I actually know I earned it. Nobody gave it to me. Nobody pulled strings. I just worked hard and they noticed and they promoted me. It feels different. Different how? Real, she said. For the first time in my life, something feels real. We talked for 20 minutes. About her job, about her apartment, about the pottery class she'd started taking. I'm terrible at it, she said, laughing. Everything I make looks like it was made by a drunk toddler. But it's fun. Nobody's judging me. Nobody cares if my bowl is lopsided. I'm taking pottery too, I said. You are? Yeah. Thursday nights, and you're right, I'm terrible, but it's fun. We laughed together. It felt easy, natural, like we were actually friends, not just mother and daughter trapped in a cycle of obligation and resentment. There's something else, Vanessa said. The divorce is final. It went through last week. How do you feel about that? She was quiet for a moment. Relieved, sad, angry, all of it, but mostly relieved. That's understandable. Robert and I, we were never right for each other. I married him for the wrong reasons. I thought his money and his family would fix something broken in me, but you can't fix broken with a bank account. I felt those words settle in my chest like stones. No, I said quietly, as you can't. I learned that from you, she said. From me? Yeah. You spent 40 years trying to fix me with money, trying to buy my love, my respect, my approval, and it didn't work, because that's not how love works. I sat down on my couch, my legs suddenly weak. You're right, I said. I did do that. I'm not blaming you, she said quickly. I'm just saying we both had to learn the same lesson, just from different sides. We were quiet for a moment. I could hear traffic in the background on her end. She was probably walking somewhere, phone pressed to her ear, navigating the world on her own. I'm dating someone, Vanessa said. You are? His name's Marcus. He's a teacher, elementary school, makes about as much as I do, which is basically nothing. She laughed. He's not rich. He's not connected. His family's ordinary. But he's kind, Mom. He's so kind. He listens. He doesn't need me to be anyone but myself. He sounds lovely. He is. She hesitated. I'd like you to meet him if you're comfortable with that. My heart stuttered. A year ago, if Vanessa had wanted to introduce me to someone, it would have been a performance. She would have prepped me on what to say, what to wear, how to act, would have made it clear that I needed to impress, to measure up, to not embarrass her. But now her voice was different, hopeful, nervous, like she actually cared what I thought, not because she needed my approval, but because it mattered to her. When? I asked. Whenever you're ready, no pressure. I know things are still complicated between us. They are, I agreed, but I'd like to meet him. How about next Saturday? We could have lunch. Really? Really? Okay. I could hear the smile in her voice. Okay, I'll text you the details. Thank you, Mom. You're welcome. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, staring at my phone. A year ago, if Vanessa had told me she was dating someone, my first question would have been about his job, his family, his prospects. I would have been mentally calculating whether he was good enough for her, whether he could provide the life she deserved. Now my first thought was, is he kind to her? That shift, that fundamental change in what I valued, felt like proof that I'd actually changed, that I wasn't just pretending, that the work I'd been doing on myself was real. The next few days I found myself actually looking forward to Saturday, not with the anxiety I used to feel before seeing Vanessa, but with genuine curiosity. I wanted to meet this man who'd made my daughter laugh again, who'd helped her see that love didn't have to be transactional. That Saturday I met Vanessa and Marcus at a small cafe downtown. Nothing fancy, just sandwiches and coffee. The kind of place I would have suggested a year ago and Vanessa would have rejected as beneath her standards. Now she was the one who'd chosen it. "It's my favorite place," she said when I arrived. "They make everything from scratch. The owner's name is Sarah. She's teaching me how to make sourdough." The old Vanessa wouldn't have known the owner's name, wouldn't have cared about learning to bake. This new version, this real version, was someone I actually wanted to know. Marcus was exactly as she'd described. Ordinary looking, maybe 5'10", brown hair starting to thin a little at the crown, jeans and a t-shirt, warm smile. Glasses that were slightly crooked, like he'd sat on them once and never quite fixed them properly. He stood when I arrived and shook my hand firmly. "Ms. Hayes, it's so nice to meet you. Vanessa's told me a lot about you." "I'm sure she has," I said. He laughed. "The good and the bad. She's been very honest." We sat down. Vanessa looked nervous, fidgeting with her napkin, glancing between us like she was waiting for something to explode. I understood. The last time I'd met someone important in her life, it had been Robert and his parents. That had ended in disaster. "So, Marcus," I said, "Vanessa tells me you're a teacher?" "5th grade," he said. "It's chaotic and exhausting, and I love it." "That takes patience." "Yeah, well, I grew up with 4 brothers. Patience was a survival skill," he grinned, "although teaching 5th grade makes my brothers look calm by comparison. You should see what happens when you give 28 10-year-olds glitter. It's like a sparkle bomb went off." I laughed, a real laugh. We talked easily. He asked about my work, my trip to Italy, my book club. He didn't ask about Vanessa's wedding or the divorce or any of the drama. He just treated me like a person, like someone worth knowing beyond my relationship to Vanessa. It was refreshing. He told stories about his students that had us all laughing, about the kid who brought a snake to show and tell without telling anyone, about the girl who'd written a 20-page book report on a book she'd made up because she forgot to read the assigned one. "What did you do?" I asked. "Gave her an A for creativity," he said, and made her read the actual book and write another report. But I kept the fake one. It was better than the real book anyway. Vanessa was watching him with this look on her face, soft, open, like she couldn't quite believe he was real. I recognized that look. It was how I used to look at her father before he left, before I learned that love could disappear as quickly as it appeared. But Marcus wasn't her father, and Vanessa wasn't me. They had a chance I'd never had, a chance to build something real from the beginning, without all the baggage and desperation and fear. Halfway through lunch, Vanessa excused herself to use the restroom. Marcus leaned forward, his expression turning serious. "Ms. Hayes, I want you to know. I'm aware of the history. Vanessa's been open with me about everything, the wedding, the money, how she treated you, all of it." I waited. "And I think what you did, setting boundaries, refusing to enable her, that took courage." "Thank you." "Most people wouldn't have done it," he continued. "Most parents keep giving and giving until there's nothing left. They sacrifice themselves completely and then wonder why their kids don't respect them." He was right, but hearing it out loud still stung a little. "You chose yourself," he said, "and honestly, I think that's the only reason Vanessa's doing as well as she is now. Because you showed her that love doesn't mean disappearing, that she had to learn to stand on her own." "Do you think she has?" "Learned, I mean." He didn't hesitate. "Yes, completely. The woman I'm dating now isn't the woman who hid her mother in the kitchen. She's someone who's learning to value people over appearances, someone who's building a life based on what matters, not what looks good on Instagram." "She still has Instagram?" He laughed. "Yeah, but she posts pictures of her terrible pottery now instead of trying to look perfect. It's actually kind of great." When Vanessa came back, I looked at her differently. She wasn't wearing makeup. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. Her clothes were from Target, not designer boutiques. She had a small stain on her sleeve that she hadn't noticed or didn't care about. She looked younger somehow, more real. And sitting next to Marcus, laughing at something he said about one of his students eating paste, she looked happy, genuinely, authentically happy. Not the performed happiness from the wedding photos, Not the fake smile she used to wear when she wanted something from me. Real joy. As we said goodbye, Vanessa hugged me, a real hug, not the quick, perfunctory ones from before. She held on tight, like she was afraid I might disappear. "Thank you for coming," she whispered. "Thank you for inviting me. Can we do this again soon?" I pulled back and looked at her. Yes, but on one condition. Her face fell slightly, and I saw the old fear flash across it. "What's that?" "You come to my place next time. I'll cook. Nothing fancy, just dinner, like normal people." Her eyes filled with tears. "I'd like that." "Next week." "Next week," she agreed. I watched them walk away, Marcus's arm around her shoulders, Vanessa leaning into him. They looked like any other young couple, ordinary, unremarkable, perfect. The following week, I spent an embarrassing amount of time preparing for dinner. I cleaned my already clean condo, vacuumed twice, dusted every surface, changed my outfit 3 times, made a shopping list and changed it twice. Carol called while I was at the grocery store, debating between 2 different types of pasta. "You're nervous," she said. "How did you know?" "Because you called me at 7 in the morning to ask if you should serve salad before or with the main course." "Eleanor, honey, you're overthinking this." "What if it goes badly? What if we run out of things to talk about? What if the food's terrible? What if you just relax and let it be what it is?" Carol interrupted. "This isn't a test. You're not auditioning to be her mother. You already are her mother. You're just having dinner." She was right, but knowing she was right didn't make the anxiety go away. I bought both types of pasta and 3 different sauces and ingredients to make salad and garlic bread and a backup meal just in case. Frank called that afternoon. "Carol told me you're spiraling," he said. "I'm not spiraling. You bought 3 kinds of pasta for 3 people. That's not spiraling, that's being prepared." He laughed. "Eleanor, listen to me. Your daughter is coming to dinner, not the Queen of England. Just make something simple. If it's terrible, you'll all laugh about it. If it's good, great. Either way, she's not coming for the food." "Then what is she coming for?" "You," he said simply. "She's coming for you." September arrived with cooler weather and the smell of fall in the air. Vanessa came to dinner as promised. She brought Marcus and a bottle of wine that probably cost too much for her budget, but I didn't say anything. "I know you said nothing fancy," she said, handing it to me, "but I wanted to bring something to say thank you for giving me another chance." We ate spaghetti at my small kitchen table. My sauce was too watery, and the garlic bread was slightly burned, but nobody complained. We talked about work and books and the election coming up. Marcus told another story about his students, this time about a kid who'd tried to bring his pet chicken to school for a science project, and how Marcus had spent an hour trying to explain why that wasn't appropriate. "What happened to the chicken?" I asked. "It's living its best life in the kid's backyard," Marcus said, and I got a very detailed PowerPoint presentation about chickens instead, with sound effects. It was actually pretty impressive. Vanessa talked about a difficult customer at work and how she'd handled it without losing her temper. "The old me would have called you crying and asking you to fix it," she said to me, "or I would have quit on the spot because I was too good for that kind of treatment." "What did you do instead?" I took a breath, remembered what my therapist taught me, and I handled it like an adult. She smiled. It felt good. It was ordinary, boring even. It was perfect. As they were leaving, Vanessa lingered at the door. "Mom, I need to tell you something." "Okay." "I've been thinking about the wedding, about the money you spent, and I want to pay you back." I started to protest, but she held up a hand. "Not all of it. I know I can't. But I've been saving a little bit each month. I have $2,000 so far. It's not much, but Vanessa, you don't have to." "Yes, I do," she said firmly. "Not because you asked for it, but because I need to. I need to prove to myself that I can take responsibility for what I did, that I can give instead of just take." I looked at her for a long moment. She was serious. This wasn't about me at all. It was about her, about proving to herself that she'd changed. And maybe that was exactly what she needed. Keep the money, I said. What? Keep it. Save it. Build a life. Build an emergency fund. That's what I want for you. Not repayment. Just a life that's yours. A safety net that means you never have to depend on anyone the way you depended on me. But, Vanessa, I don't need your money. What I needed was for you to see me, to acknowledge what you did, and you have. That's enough. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I don't deserve you. You don't need to deserve love, I said. You just need to accept it and give it back when you can, not with money, just with presence, with honesty, with showing up. She hugged me then, crying into my shoulder the way she used to when she was small and something had hurt her feelings at school. I love you, Mom. I love you too. And this time I believed it on both sides. Marcus was waiting by the car, giving us privacy. When we finally pulled apart, he waved. Thank you for dinner, Ms. Hayes. It was perfect. Even the burned garlic bread, especially the burned garlic bread, he said, grinning. My mom always burns it too. Made me feel right at home. I watched them drive away, Marcus's old car rattling slightly as it turned the corner. A year ago, I would have been horrified that Vanessa was dating someone who drove a car that made noise. Would have worried that she was settling, that she deserved better. Now I was just glad she'd found someone who made her laugh. October brought an unexpected visitor. Patricia Cole showed up at my door on a Tuesday afternoon. No warning, no call. Just appeared on my doorstep like a bad omen. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. She stood there in another expensive outfit, this one cream-colored with gold buttons that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Her face was tight with disapproval, her mouth set in a thin line. Eleanor. Patricia. May I come in? Every instinct I had screamed no, screamed to close the door and lock it and pretend this wasn't happening. But I wanted to hear what she had to say. She sat on my couch, looking around my small condo with barely concealed disdain. Her eyes lingered on my discount store curtains, my second-hand coffee table, the stack of library books I hadn't returned yet, the lopsided pottery vase I'd made that sat proudly on my bookshelf. You've certainly downsized, she said. I like it. She set her designer purse on my coffee table, right on top of one of my library books like it was a coaster. I'll get to the point. Vanessa's divorce from Robert is finalized. I know. Did you also know that she refused the settlement we offered? I hadn't known that. Patricia's lips thinned even more, if that was possible. Robert's lawyers drew up a very generous agreement. Very generous. She would have walked away with $300,000, enough money to buy a house, to live comfortably for years, to maintain the lifestyle she'd grown accustomed to, but she turned it down. Why? She said. Patricia's voice dripped with contempt. She said she didn't want money she hadn't earned, that she needed to make her own way, that taking Robert's money would be repeating the same pattern she'd had with you. Can you imagine? Actually, I could, and I was so proud I almost cried. She's working retail, Eleanor, retail. Living with roommates in some terrible neighborhood on the east side, dating a public school teacher who drives a car from 2008 that sounds like it's going to die any second. She's throwing her life away. Or she's building a life that actually means something. Patricia's eyes narrowed dangerously. Is that what you think? That poverty equals virtue? That struggling is somehow noble? That she's better off barely making rent than living comfortably? I think happiness doesn't come from money, I said. I think Vanessa's learning that. Because you taught her to hate wealth, to resent success, to be ashamed of wanting more. No, I said calmly. I taught her that people matter more than things, that self-respect matters more than status, that she doesn't need to buy her way into someone's life or let someone buy her. How noble, Patricia said coldly, and how convenient. You couldn't give her the life she deserved, so you convinced her she didn't need it. You poisoned her against everything we tried to give her. I stood up. Patricia, I think it's time for you to leave. I'm not finished. Yes, you are. You came here to blame me for Vanessa's choices, to make me feel guilty for not raising her to value the things you value. But I don't feel guilty. For the first time in my life, I'm proud of who my daughter is becoming. And if that bothers you, that's your problem, not mine." She stood slowly, grabbing her purse. "You've poisoned her against our family, against everything we tried to give her, against success and ambition, and making something of herself." "Your family poisoned itself," I said. "You raised a son who cheated on his wife, who thought marriage was about appearances instead of partnership, who valued his mother's opinion more than his wife's feelings. Vanessa's better off without all of you." Patricia's face went red. "How dare you?" "I dare because it's true. Robert's 38 years old and he still calls his mother before making decisions. He chose his family's money and approval over his marriage vows. And now he's alone, living in that big house you bought him, probably already dating someone new who fits your aesthetic better. At least he has ambition. At least he's making something of himself instead of working a dead-end retail job and living in squalor." "He's living in squalor?" I asked. "Really? Because the last I heard, Vanessa's apartment is small but clean. She pays her own rent, buys her own groceries, makes her own choices. That's not squalor, that's independence." "It's pathetic." "No," I said quietly. What's pathetic is a grown man who can't function without his mother's money. What's pathetic is a family that measures worth in bank accounts instead of character. What's pathetic is coming to my home to bully me into feeling bad about my daughter choosing happiness over your approval." Patricia stood, her whole body rigid with anger. "You'll regret this. When she comes crawling back, begging for help, needing money because she can't make rent or her boyfriend leaves her." "She won't," I said, "because she's learned to stand on her own, something your son never did." "My son is successful." "Your son is lonely," I interrupted, "and he's going to stay lonely until he learns that people aren't accessories. That marriage isn't a business transaction. That love requires more than a joint bank account." Patricia's hand tightened on her purse. "You think you've won. You think turning Vanessa into a poor, struggling nobody is some kind of victory. But you've destroyed her future. She could have had everything, and you've convinced her to settle for nothing." "No," I said, walking to the door and opening it. "I helped her find out what everything actually means. And it's not a big house and a cheating husband and in-laws who measure her worth by her zip code." I gestured to the open door. "Now get out of my home." She walked to it, then turned back one more time. "You'll regret this, Eleanor. Mark my words." "The only thing I regret," I said, "is ever letting people like you make me feel small. Now leave and don't come back." She left. I closed the door and stood there for a moment, my heart pounding. Then I laughed. Actually laughed. Because a year ago that conversation would have destroyed me. I would have apologized, doubted myself, wondered if she was right, spent days or weeks replaying it, trying to figure out where I'd gone wrong. But now I knew better. Patricia Cole lived in a world where value was measured in bank accounts and zip codes, where love could be bought and status could be maintained through the right connections and the right addresses. I'd lived in that world once, tried to buy my way into it, spent $170,000 trying to prove I belonged. And I'd learned the hardest way possible that it was all an illusion. A beautiful, expensive illusion that left you empty and alone and wondering why nothing ever felt like enough. I'd rather have my small condo and my genuine relationships and my lopsided pottery and my burned garlic bread than all the money in the world and no one who actually loved me. The phone rang. "Vanessa." "Mom, I just got off the phone with Patricia. She called me screaming about how you threw her out of your house." I did. "Good," Vanessa said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "I'm proud of you." "You are?" "Yeah, she called me first, before she came to see you. Wanted me to convince you to talk sense into me, to take the settlement money, to come back to Robert." "What did you tell her?" "I told her that I'd rather be poor and happy than rich and miserable. That I'd rather struggle with someone who loves me than live in luxury with someone who cheats on me, and that if she ever contacted me or you again, I'd get a restraining order." I sat down, my legs suddenly weak. "Vanessa, I meant it, Mom. I'm done with them, with that whole world. It nearly destroyed me, nearly destroyed us. I'm not going back. Are you sure? That's a lot of money to walk away from. I've never been more sure of anything, she said. Money doesn't fix broken, Mom. You taught me that, the hard way, but you taught me. We talked for another half hour. About Patricia's visit, about Robert's increasingly desperate texts, about how Vanessa had finally blocked his whole family. I feel lighter, she said, like I've been carrying this weight my whole life and I finally put it down. I know that feeling, I said. Yeah, she said softly. I guess you do. November arrived with Thanksgiving approaching. Vanessa called to ask if I wanted to have dinner together. Just the two of us. Marcus is going to his parents, she said, and I thought maybe we could start a new tradition. Something simple, just us. I'd like that. Nothing fancy, she said quickly. I can't cook a turkey. I don't even know where to start with a turkey. I was thinking maybe we could just make sandwiches or order pizza or something. Turkey sandwiches, I said, from that deli on 4th Street, the one you used to love when you were in high school. They're still there. Still there. Perfect. And maybe we could just watch movies all afternoon like we used to. I'd love that. The eagerness in her voice made my chest tight. This was what I'd wanted for 40 years. Just time with my daughter. No agenda, no performance, just being together, and it had taken losing everything to finally get it. Thanksgiving Day was grey and cold, the kind of day that makes you want to stay in pajamas and not answer the door. But when Vanessa showed up, I was dressed and ready. She stood on my doorstep in jeans and an oversized sweater, carrying a bag from the deli and a box of cookies from the grocery store and bakery. I know they're not homemade, she said, but I remembered you used to love these, the ones with the frosting that's way too sweet. I did love them. Had bought them for years when she was growing up because they were cheap and she thought they were special. I hadn't had them in years. They're perfect, I said. We made a nest on my couch with blankets and pillows, ate our sandwiches and cookies, watched old movies we'd seen 100 times, romantic comedies from the 90s that didn't make sense but didn't need to. At one point, during a commercial break, Vanessa turned to me. Do you remember when I was little and I asked you why we didn't have a big house like my friends? Yes. What did you tell me? I said that big houses don't make people happy, that happiness comes from love and from feeling safe and from having people who care about you. She smiled sadly. I didn't believe you. I thought you were just saying that because we were poor. I know. I believe you now. She pulled her knees up to her chest, wrapping her arms around them. I lived in that big house in Brookhaven for 3 months before everything fell apart with Robert. You know what I remember most about it? What? How empty it was, how quiet. Robert was always working or out with his friends or on his phone dealing with something at his parents' company. His parents would drop by unannounced to criticize the way I decorated or tell me I needed to join the right clubs, meet the right people. I had everything I thought I wanted, and I'd never been more miserable. I'm sorry you had to learn it that way. I'm not, she said. I needed to. I needed to have everything I thought would make me happy and realize it didn't. Otherwise, I'd have spent my whole life chasing it, resenting you for not giving it to me. We were quiet for a moment. The movie played on, but neither of us was really watching. This, she said, gesturing around my small condo, this is what I want now. Not the fancy house or the expensive furniture or the life that looks good on social media. Just somewhere that feels like home. Somewhere real. You'll have it, I said. I already do. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I have Marcus. I have my tiny apartment with my terrible roommates who leave dishes in the sink. I have a job I actually like, even though it doesn't pay much. I have friends who know the real me, not the version I was pretending to be. And I have you. Finally, actually have you. Not just your money or your help, but you. I felt tears prick my eyes. Tears prick. I'm thankful for that, she said softly. I know I don't deserve it after everything I did, but I'm thankful anyway. Me too, I whispered. We stayed like that for a while, watching the movie without really watching it, just being together in a way we never had before, equals. Not mother and child, not creditor and debtor, not user and used. Just two women who loved each other, flaws and all. December came fast, bringing snow and Christmas preparations and the usual end-of-year chaos. But this year felt different. I didn't stress about finding the perfect expensive gift for Vanessa. Didn't max out credit cards trying to prove my love through material things. Instead, I made something. I'd been taking that pottery class on Thursday nights for months now. I still wasn't very good at it, honestly. My bowls were lopsided, and my mugs leaked, and my plates were more oval than round. But I'd managed to make a small vase that was actually decent. It was simple. Just a straight cylinder, nothing fancy, but the glaze had turned out beautifully. Shades of blue and green that reminded me of the ocean. Vanessa's favorite colors. I wrapped it carefully in newspaper, the comic section, because she used to love reading those on Sunday mornings, and felt more excited about giving this $5 piece of pottery than I'd felt about any of the expensive gifts I'd given her over the years. Because this one was made with love, real love, not the desperate, anxious love that tries to buy affection. Just simple, honest love. Vanessa and Marcus came over on Christmas Eve. We'd agreed to keep it small. Simple, just the three of us and a quiet dinner. Marcus brought me a book he thought I'd like based on what I'd mentioned about my book club. It was thoughtful and perfect, and I could tell he'd actually listened to our conversations, actually paid attention. I gave him a scarf I'd knitted. It was crooked and had a few drop stitches, but he put it on immediately and said it was the warmest gift he'd ever received. Then Vanessa handed me a small box wrapped in newspaper comics. Great minds think alike, I said, pointing to her gift also wrapped in comics. We laughed and opened our gifts at the same time. Mine was a photo album, not store-bought, handmade, with a cover she decorated herself with fabric and glue and buttons. It looked like something a kid would make in art class. It was beautiful. I opened it carefully. The first page had a photo from her childhood, me holding her as a newborn, looking exhausted and terrified, and completely in love. I found these in the boxes I picked up from the old house, she said. I'd forgotten about most of them, but going through them, I realized something. I turned the pages slowly, me teaching her to ride a bike, running behind her with my hand on the seat, helping with homework at the kitchen table, both of us frowning at the math problem, at her elementary school graduation, beaming with pride, her high school plays where I was in the audience for every single performance, move-in day at college, both of us crying, every major moment of her life. And I was there, always there. I was so focused on what I didn't have, Vanessa continued, her voice thick with emotion. The brand name clothes, the nice house, the vacations my friends took, I couldn't see what I did have. You, always you, showing up, being present, loving me even when I didn't deserve it. I couldn't speak. Tears were streaming down my face, dripping onto the album. You were a good mother, she said. You're a good mother, and I'm sorry it took me 36 years to see it. I hugged her then, holding her tight like I used to when she was small and scared and needed me. We both cried. Marcus quietly excused himself to the kitchen to give us privacy. When we finally pulled apart, I wiped my eyes and picked up the gift I'd made for her. This isn't much, I said, handing her the wrapped vase, but I made it myself in that pottery class I told you about. She unwrapped it carefully, then stared at it for a long moment, turning it in her hands. Mom, it's beautiful. It's lopsided. It's perfect. She looked up at me, tears still wet on her cheeks. Because you made it. You didn't buy it. You made it with your own hands. That means everything to me. She walked over to my bookshelf and placed it right in the center, next to the lopsided bowl I'd made and was too proud of to hide. That's where it belongs, she said, somewhere visible, not hidden away, not in the background, right there where everyone can see it. The symbolism wasn't lost on either of us. The invisible mother, finally visible, not because someone finally noticed her, but because she'd finally learned to see herself. New Year's Eve found me on my balcony, wrapped in a blanket, watching fireworks over the city. Frank had invited me to a party at his place, but I declined gently. I wanted to be alone tonight, to think about the year that had passed, to reflect on everything that had changed. A year ago, I'd been invisible, erased, a ghost in my own life, existing only to serve someone else's needs. Now I was solid, real, present. I'd lost a daughter and found her again, different and better than before. I'd lost a house and found a home. I'd lost myself and found someone I actually liked. Someone who set boundaries, who said no when she needed to, who chose herself without guilt. My phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. Happy New Year, Mom. Thank you for teaching me that it's never too late to start over, that real wealth is measured in relationships, not bank accounts, that love means seeing someone, really seeing them, not just using them. I love you, always. V. I smiled and texted back, I love you too, sweetheart. Here's to new beginnings, to both of us. Another text came through almost immediately. P.S. Marcus proposed tonight. I said yes. But we're doing this differently. Small ceremony, city hall, just family and close friends. No $70,000 production, no hiding people in kitchens. And Mom, I want you front and center, not hidden in the background, not in the back row, right there beside me where you belong. If you'll come. I read it 3 times, my hands shaking. Then I called her. She answered on the first ring. I could hear crying on the other end, but also laughter. You're getting married? I said. Yes. She sounded breathless, happy, real. I know it's fast, but we've talked about it and we're both sure. Mom, he asked me in the middle of our tiny apartment with my terrible roommates listening through the walls, and I've never been happier. When? Spring. April maybe. We're still figuring it out, but soon. We don't want to wait, and we don't want anything fancy, just something real. I'll be there, I said. Front and center, exactly where I should be. I could hear her crying harder now. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for giving me another chance. Thank you for not giving up on me even when I gave you every reason to. Thank you for becoming someone worth not giving up on, I said. We talked for another 20 minutes about dates and plans and how they wanted to keep everything simple. No expensive venue, no designer dress, no performance. Just 2 people who loved each other, making a promise in front of the people who mattered most. When we hung up, I looked out at the city lights and felt something shift inside me. The fireworks burst overhead, bright and beautiful and temporary, just like everything in life. But that was okay, because I'd learned something this year, something important, something I wished I'd learned 40 years ago but was grateful to know now. You can't buy love. You can't earn it through sacrifice. You can't make people value you by making yourself small or by giving everything you have until there's nothing left. Love, real love, is built on respect, on boundaries, on seeing each other as whole, complete people with needs and dreams and value that exists independent of what we can give each other. It's built on truth. And for the first time in my life, I was living in truth. Not someone's mother first and person second, not someone's bank account, not someone's disappointment or embarrassment or inconvenient truth. Just Eleanor, 64 years old, living in a small condo, working an ordinary job, dating a kind man named Frank who made me laugh, traveling when I could, reading books, making friends, taking pottery classes and failing spectacularly but having fun anyway, living a small life that was entirely mine. And it was enough, more than enough. It was everything. The months between New Year's and the wedding passed in a blur of quiet happiness. I continued my pottery classes, made a set of bowls for Vanessa and Marcus as a wedding gift. They were all different sizes and none of them matched, but that felt right somehow. I went to book club every week, started actually sharing my opinions instead of just nodding along with whatever everyone else said. Frank and I went on dates. Nothing serious but nice, comfortable. He never asked for more than I could give, and Vanessa and I talked every week, sometimes more. Real conversations about real things. She told me about wedding planning, about how freeing it was to make decisions based on what they actually wanted, instead of what would look good or what people expected. We're having the ceremony in a park, she said, the one near Marcus's school. His students are going to sing. Can you believe it? 5th graders singing at our wedding. Patricia would die. It sounds perfect. It is perfect. For us. That's the thing I'm learning. Perfect doesn't mean expensive. It just means right. I told her about my life too. about Frank, about my book club, about the trip Carol and I were planning to Ireland in the fall. Ireland, she said. Mom, that's amazing. You should go. You should do all the things you never let yourself do. I'm trying. I'm proud of you, she said. Those words meant more than she could know. In March, Vanessa and Marcus came over for dinner again. This time, Vanessa helped me cook. We made pasta together in my tiny kitchen, bumping into each other and laughing when I dropped a noodle on the floor. I'm a terrible cook, she said. Me too. We'll be terrible together. Marcus sat at the table, grading papers and occasionally looking up to smile at us. You two are adorable, he said. We're disasters, Vanessa corrected. Adorable disasters. Over dinner, they told me more about the wedding. We're writing our own vows, Vanessa said. Nothing traditional, just honest things about what we're promising each other. Like what? I asked. She glanced at Marcus, who nodded. I'm promising to never make him feel invisible, she said quietly. To never take him for granted. To see him every day, not just when I need something. My throat tightened. And I'm promising to always be honest with her, Marcus said. To call her on her bullshit, sorry, Ms. Hayes, when she needs it. To love her enough to let her fail sometimes instead of fixing everything. They looked at each other with so much love it made my chest ache. This was what I'd wanted for Vanessa all along. Not a rich husband or a big house or a perfect wedding. Just someone who saw her, who loved her, who helped her be better. April arrived with cherry blossoms and warm sunshine. The day before the wedding, Vanessa came over alone. Marcus is with his brothers, she explained. Bachelor party, they're going to a baseball game and drinking too much beer and probably eating terrible food. Very classy. I laughed. Sounds perfect. It is. She sat on my couch, fidgeting with her hands. Mom, I need to tell you something. My stomach dropped. Okay. I've been in therapy for almost a year now. You knew that. But what I haven't told you is that we've been working on something specific. What's that? Understanding why I treated you the way I did. Going beyond I was entitled and terrible to really understanding the psychology of it. I waited. Dr. Chen thinks I was angry at you my whole life, she said. Angry that you weren't like other moms. That we didn't have money. That you worked all the time and I had to come home to an empty house. That I couldn't have the things my friends had. I had suspected this, but hearing it out loud still hurt. And instead of processing that anger in a healthy way, I punished you for it. I made you feel like you were never enough. Like no matter how much you gave, it wasn't enough. Because in my head, you owed me. You owed me for being poor, for being ordinary, for being you. Tears were streaming down her face now. That's so sick, Mom. That's so twisted and wrong. You didn't owe me anything. You gave me everything you had, and I treated it like it was garbage. Vanessa. No, let me finish. She took a shaky breath. I spent my whole adult life trying to get from other people what I thought you couldn't give me. I married Robert because he had everything you didn't. Money, status, a family with connections, and I thought that would fix me, that having those things would make me happy. Did it? No, it made me worse, because I became someone I hated, someone shallow and cruel and empty, someone who hid her mother in the kitchen because she didn't fit the aesthetic. She looked at me with red, swollen eyes. I'm ashamed of who I was, who I became, but I'm trying to be better. Every single day I'm trying. I know you are, I said. Tomorrow, when I get married, I'm going to stand up there and make promises to Marcus. But I want to make a promise to you too. You don't have to. I promise, she said, to never make you feel invisible again, to see you, to value you, to treat you like the person you are, not the resource I thought you were, to be the daughter you deserved all along. I was crying now too, and I promise to teach my kids, when we have them, to see people, to value people, to understand that love isn't about money or status or what someone can give you. It's about presence, about seeing each other, about showing up. She stood up and hugged me. I love you, Mom. And I'm so sorry for all the years I wasted not showing it. I love you too, I whispered, so much. We stayed like that for a long time, holding each other, crying together, healing together. The wedding day was perfect. Not perfect in the way Vanessa's first wedding had tried to be. Curated and expensive and designed for Instagram. perfect in the way that mattered, real, honest, full of love. The ceremony was in a small park under a canopy of trees just starting to bloom. There were maybe 30 people there. Marcus's family, a few friends, Carol and Frank and me. I wore a dress I'd bought specifically for this day. Nothing expensive, but new. And I'd chosen it myself without worrying about whether it fit someone else's aesthetic. It was yellow. Bright, happy yellow, and I loved it. When Vanessa arrived, she wasn't in a designer gown. She wore a simple white dress from a department store, flowers in her hair that Marcus's students had picked that morning. She looked beautiful, not magazine beautiful, not Instagram beautiful, real beautiful. She walked down the makeshift aisle alone. No one to give her away because, as she'd explained to me, I'm not property to be transferred. I'm choosing this on my own. When she reached Marcus, they both had tears in their eyes. The officiant, one of Marcus's friends who'd gotten ordained online specifically for this, kept it short and sweet. Then came the vows. Marcus went first. Vanessa, I promise to see you every day. Not the version of you that you think I want. Just you. I promise to love you when you're difficult, which is often. Everyone laughed. I promise to call you on your bullshit when you need it and to listen when you call me on mine. I promise to build a life with you that's based on what matters, not what looks good. I promise to choose you every day for the rest of my life. Then Vanessa spoke. Marcus, I promise to never take you for granted, to never make you feel invisible or unvalued, or like you only matter when you can give me something. I promise to choose honesty over appearance, to choose substance over status, to choose love over everything else. I promise to keep working on being better, on being worthy of your love, and I promise to see you every day for exactly who you are. They kissed before the officiant could even say they could. Everyone laughed and cried and clapped. Then Vanessa turned to me. Mom, can you come here? I walked up confused. She took my hands. I have another set of vows, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear, for my mother. My heart stopped. Mom, I promise to never again treat you like you're invisible, to never again measure your worth by what you can give me, to see you as a person, complete and whole, deserving of respect and love and consideration. She was crying now, but she kept going. I promise to show up for you the way you showed up for me, to be present, to listen, to value you. I promise to teach my children about you, about your strength, your courage, your willingness to choose yourself when it would have been easier to keep giving. She squeezed my hands. I promise to be the daughter you deserved all along. Not perfect, but trying, always trying. I couldn't speak, could barely breathe. And I want to say in front of everyone here that I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the years I wasted. I'm sorry for the pain I caused. I'm sorry for making you feel like you weren't enough when the truth is you were always more than enough. You were everything. We hugged, both of us sobbing while everyone cried with us. When we finally pulled apart, Vanessa had one more surprise. Mom, will you stand with me for the rest of the ceremony? I should have asked you before, but I wanted it to be a surprise. So I stood there next to my daughter as she and Marcus exchanged rings. Front and center, visible, valued, exactly where I belonged. The reception was in the same park, picnic tables covered in simple white tablecloths, food from a local taco truck, cupcakes from the grocery store bakery. Marcus's students sang, badly, adorably, enthusiastically. People gave speeches. Marcus's brother told embarrassing stories. Carol talked about how proud she was of both of us. And then Vanessa asked if I wanted to say something. I hadn't prepared anything, didn't know what to say, but I stood up anyway. 1.5 years ago I began, my voice shaking. I stood at the edge of Vanessa's first wedding and felt invisible, like I didn't matter, like I was nothing more than the person who paid the bills. Everyone was quiet. Today, I'm standing here, visible and valued, watching my daughter marry someone who actually sees her, who loves her not for what she can give him, but for who she is. I looked at Vanessa and Marcus. This is what I wanted for you all along. Not money, not status, just someone who sees you, someone who loves you, someone who helps you be better. I turned to everyone there. For 40 years, I believed that love meant sacrifice, that being a good mother meant giving everything until there was nothing left, and I was wrong. I looked at Vanessa again. The best thing I ever did for you was stop, was finally saying no, was choosing myself when you'd given me every reason not to, because that's what forced you to grow, to change, to become the person you are now. My voice broke. I'm so proud of you, not because you're getting married, but because you did the work, because you looked in the mirror and didn't like what you saw and you changed it, because you chose to be better. I raised my glass. To Vanessa and Marcus, may you always see each other, may you always choose each other, may you build a life that's real and honest and full of love. Everyone raised their glasses. To Vanessa and Marcus, the rest of the reception was a blur of happiness. I danced with Frank, talked with Marcus's parents, who were lovely and kind and normal, watched Vanessa and Marcus cut their cake and feed each other with more frosting, ending up on their faces than in their mouths. At one point, late in the evening, Vanessa found me sitting on a bench, watching everything. "You okay, Mom?" "I'm perfect," I said. "This is perfect." She sat next to me. "It's not what I imagined my wedding would be." No, it's better, so much better." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "Thank you." "For what?" "For loving me enough to let me fall, for being strong enough to choose yourself, for showing me what real love looks like." We sat there together, watching the sun set over the park, listening to the laughter and music and joy. And I felt complete, not because my daughter had finally seen me, but because I'd finally seen myself. The invisible mother was gone. In her place was Eleanor, just Eleanor, 64 years old, living her small, beautiful life, surrounded by people who valued her, choosing herself every single day. And it was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything. As the evening wound down and guests started leaving, I found myself alone for a moment, watching Vanessa and Marcus say goodbye to people. They looked so happy, so real, so completely themselves. Carol appeared beside me. "You did good, Eleanor." "I didn't do anything." "You did everything. You showed her what strength looks like, what self-respect looks like, what love without conditions looks like." It nearly killed me. The best things usually do. She squeezed my arm. "But look at you now. Look at both of you. You're both free." She was right. For the first time in 40 years, I wasn't carrying anyone else's weight. And Vanessa wasn't being carried. We were both standing on our own. Finally. That night, back in my condo, I looked at the photo album Vanessa had made me. All those pictures of me being present, showing up, loving her the best I knew how. I'd thought I'd failed, thought I hadn't given her enough. But maybe I'd given her exactly what she needed. Not money, not material things, but presence, love, and eventually the space to fall and learn to stand back up. My phone buzzed. Vanessa. "Thank you for today, Mom, for everything, for being there, for being you. I love you so much." I smiled and texted back, "I love you too. Congratulations, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you." I put my phone down and walked out to my balcony. The city lights sparkled below. Somewhere out there, Vanessa and Marcus were starting their honeymoon, a weekend camping trip, because that's all they could afford and all they wanted. Somewhere out there, Patricia Cole was probably still fuming about Vanessa's choices. Somewhere out there, my old life still existed, the empty house I'd sold, the woman I used to be, the relationship that had almost destroyed us both. But I wasn't there anymore. I was here, in my small condo with my lopsided pottery, and my library books and my life that was entirely mine. And I'd learned something invaluable. You can't buy love. You can't earn it through sacrifice. You can't make people value you by disappearing. Real love, the kind that lasts, the kind that matters, is built on truth, on seeing each other clearly, on choosing each other freely, not because you have to, not because you owe each other, but because you want to. The invisible mother had become visible, not because anyone finally saw her, but because she'd finally learned to see herself, and that changed everything. I stood there on my balcony, feeling the cool night air on my face, and smiled because I was happy, genuinely, completely, honestly happy. For the first time in my life, I was enough. Not because I'd given enough, not because I'd done enough, but simply because I existed. And that was the greatest gift I'd ever received, not from Vanessa, but from myself.